Right, we are back. This is the Insta360 X5 and the DJI Osmo 360. And we both have them on 4K, 25 frames per second. We have Mega View on the X5 and we're in boost mode. So it's like a 6mm lens on the Osmo 360, which is pretty damn wide, as you can see. And the Osmo 360 is obviously in normal 10-bit, whereas we're filming in standard normal 8-bit on the X5. And this is what they look like. This is what I look like. And today we are filming single lens mode only. So you're going to see what these two look like in single lens mode, what differences there are, and basically how they act like a normal action camera, like the Ace Pro 2, like the Action 5 Pro, what they look like when I'm filming basically in this mode. Now, I do have face tracking on the X5 at the moment, so I can see there's a little yellow box around my face and it is tracking my face. I'm going to turn it off so you can see if there's a difference between the exposure between the two. Right, so it is now turned off. So I now have matrix tracking, which basically tracks the whole frame on the Insta360 X5, much like it does on the DJI Osmo 360. This is what it looks like, and if I spin around you can see if there's any difference between the two. Now I can see that the Osmo 360 is visibly wider with the boost mode on than it is in Mega, but that's something that a 360 camera can always change. You know, if we go into 360 mode, we can make both of them as wide as possible. And DJI, since its latest update, has apparently straightened out its edges when it comes to the 360 modes. Right, let's try the next mode, which isn't boost, but we have an option of 5K. So let's try that out. So right now, we have it in normal single lens mode on the Osmo 360 and Mega on the Insta360 X5. We're filming in 4K on the X5 and we're filming in 5K in ultra wide on the DJI Osmo 360. So this is what they look like, and this is the difference we have. There's a little bit of sun behind me, how those flares look, and I am still on matrix on the Insta360 X5. I don't know, at the moment they seem pretty similar. We have Rocksteady on. We also had Rocksteady on in previous shots, and that is DJI's, stabilization. It all looks fairly similar. I can see that the Insta360 maybe is a tad wider, but they're both, at the end of the day, they're both great cameras. If I already had to choose something to go out, vlog with, film with, I would probably pick the X5 due to the replaceable lenses. I'm not always careful with my cameras. I do scratch them. And, just being able to quickly replace the lens and not have to use lens protectors means a lot to me. I've changed about 4 lenses on the X5 already, just from, filming and getting a little scratch here and breaking a lens there. So that really does make a massive difference to me. Now, I'm going to turn on D-Log so you guys can see what D-Log looks like. So this is now D-Log on the Osmo 360 right there. And, it's basically a profile that we grade with. So if you want to grade and you need a 10-bit profile, D-Log is pretty cool, and it allows us to edit pretty simply with a LUT between like the Action 5 Pro, the Mavic 4 Pro. It allows us to have this really seamless editing process when it comes to color between all the drones, action cameras, 360 cameras with DJI, which is really great. And it's something I really hope that Insta360 is working on, where we can get 10-bit and we can have a proper log profile where all Insta360 anti-gravity drones and Insta360 cameras will be just, one LUT, boom, and it's all graded together. That would be pretty awesome. So now we are back to face metering on the X5, so I can once again see the yellow rectangle around my face. And they're both on their dewarped profiles. So as you can see, the Osmo 360 does punch in quite a bit, whereas the Insta360 X5 is still quite wide. And this basically means that anything that's kind of straight behind me should more or less kind of keep straight. I think it might be in the image a little bit more warped on the X5, but it is a much wider view. As I can see, I am feeling almost a little bit claustrophobic on the Osmo 360 being this close in. Now, having this face matrix kind of view means that my face is constantly exposed correctly on the Insta360 X5, whereas it's not tracking my face with the Osmo 360. The face metering on the X5 just means that my face is always visible, no matter what kind of, if it's too bright behind me, if it's too dark. So we'll expose different parts of the frame in various ways depending on what's happening with my face. So the frame at the back might be brighter, or it could be darker, just to get my face nicely exposed. At the moment I can see the sun in the Osmo looks like just a round hole, whereas in the X5 it looks a little bit more natural. And right now, believe it or not, they're both on 4K. So we don't have 5K on the Osmo, we have 4K and 4K. Now I'm going to switch back to their widest view so you can see what that looks like. And let me just show you what face metering looks like here. So I've gone into a dark spot, and this is what face metering does. We are back in 4K on both of them and in their widest views when it comes to the 4K footage in normal video mode. And as you can see, we are still on face metering when it comes to the X5. So the sky behind me on the X5 just seems a little bit more kind of turquoise, where it's darker blue on there. But you can see the difference it makes. It really does do a big difference when it's metering your face. I'm sure DJI could use this as well, but they don't. So right now we're going to talk about the actual slow motion. The Insta360 X5 can do 60 frames in 4K, much like the DJI Osmo 360, whereas it can go in this mode. So we have pretty straight lines, up to 60 frames in 4K, 60 frames in 4K in the Osmo, but it can go up to 120 frames with this kind of straight mode. You need to put it into boost mode on the Osmo 360 to get it to 120 frames, which really distorts the image. It's kind of like a POV kind of view, whereas we can do it in 2.7K at 60 and 1080p 120 frames per second on the X5. Whereas, as you know, we don't have 120 frames, we don't have 1080p on the Osmo 360. So anyway, I'm going to jump off this just so you see what stabilization looks like. That's what it looks like on both of them. And I'm going to set my camera up here, and I'm just going to jump off there again so you can see what it looks like in 60 frames per second. And then we're going to turn on boost mode, and you can see 120 frames per second on both of them. So this right here is 2.7K on both cameras. The funny thing about the Osmo 360 is that is the lowest resolution it goes down to. It won't go down to 1080p in single lens mode or in the boost mode, which is a little bit odd, but this is what 2.7K looks like on both of them. And in a minute I'll show you guys what 1080p looks like on the X5 versus the 2.7K on the Osmo 360. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how differently these guys work. We have face metering on all the time on the X5, so that's why you're probably going to see a slight difference in exposure in comparison. The X5 to me is a camera that you film with and you can get out zero editing, whereas with the Osmo 360 I think it's the kind of camera that could use a bit of editing when you're, you know, getting out there. It's the kind of camera that people buy, you know, to happily edit with. Whereas the X5 is your kind of, you know, even the way the screen's set out, it's ready to drop on, you know, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts. It's that kind of camera. But as I have this image right now in single lens mode, well, the X5 screen is a lot smaller than the Osmo 360 screen in horizontal, so it's a little bit more difficult to see, but in vertical it's a completely different story. So this is 1080p on the Insta360 X5 and 2.7K on the Osmo 360, and this is what 1080p looks like on both of these. I know some people ask about 1080p. I have no idea. I haven't filmed in 1080p since like 1996, but some people want it, so maybe they can film forever and ever and ever, and you know, on 512 gigabyte card or something. But yeah, it's what it looks like. Maybe DJI will add a 1080p option, but at the moment it's only got 2.7K on the single lens mode and the boost mode. It's an odd choice not to add 1080p, but yeah, Insta360 does have this option. So we are back to matrix metering on both of them, and I just want to talk about formats very quickly in single lens mode. We have 4x3 in the Osmo 360 and 16x9, whereas in the X5 we have 16x9 and 9x16. So because it's got a long vertical screen, we can now see it in TikTok or Instagram mode, so you can see what you're filming if you're looking to do shorts or TikToks or reels. This is what it looks like on both of them. So like I said, I feel that sometimes the Osmo 360 is more catered towards a smaller kind of group of filmmakers, whereas the Insta360 X5 is catered to a much wider mass of people, the social media kind of crew. Two very similar cameras, but very different at the same time. Anyway, if you guys did like my film, or have any questions at all, just drop them down below, give me a like, subscribe, all that jazz, ring the bell, and you know, all links down below, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Oh, which one did you prefer?